The final deduction. In a dimly lit corner of an unassuming apartment in Tokyo, young Shinichi Kudo, currently trapped in the small body of Conan Edagawa, sat at a worn desk. His small form was dwarfed by the towering corkboard before him, a sprawling collage of photographs, documents, and scribbled notes connected with colored strings that twisted and turned, forming an intricate web. Each piece was a fragment of the mystery he had dedicated his life to solving, the true identity of the enigmatic boss of the Black Organization. His normally bright eyes were shadowed with exhaustion, but a spark of relentless determination ignited within them. His small fingers traced the lines, his mind deftly weaving through the information he had gathered over the years. Then it struck him, a missing connection, a detail so minor that he had overlooked it until now. But now, seeing it in the context of the broader puzzle, its significance was undeniable. His heart pounded in his chest as realization washed over him. His hands shook as he pinned the final piece of information onto the board. The web of clues that had once been disjointed now formed a coherent picture, leading to the one person who could be the boss of the Black Organization. It was a name that sent a chill down his spine. The anticipation, fear, and exhilaration rolled into a tidal wave of adrenaline, engulfing him. The breakthrough he had been tirelessly pursuing was now in his grasp. The final battle was in sight, the end of a journey that had cost him his identity and normal life. But was he ready for what would come next? Across town, within the confines of a secret makeshift lab, AI Hybera was engrossed in her task. The rhythmic humming of the machines, the dull glow of the monitor casting long, dancing shadows across the room, and the sterile smell of chemicals provided a familiar comfort. But tonight, the usual tranquility was tinged with a crackling tension. In her hand, she held a small vial, its contents shimmering under the cold light. After countless trials, sleepless nights, and disappointing results, it was finally here, a potential antidote for the APTX 4869 poison. The formula, perfected after years of painstaking research, had the potential to reverse the effects of the poison that had turned Shinichi into Conan. She knew it wasn't without risks, though. The antidote could have unforeseen side effects, but there was no other way. Shinichi deserved a chance to regain his true form, to reclaim the life that was unfairly taken from him. With a sigh, she carefully packed the antidote into a secure case, her mind filled with conflicting emotions. There was hope, of course, but it was shrouded by an inescapable fear of the unknown. Regardless, it was a step that needed to be taken. After one final glance around her lab, AI switched off the lights, leaving the room bathed in darkness. She held the case tightly, her heart heavy with the weight of its contents. The antidote, much like the missing piece Shinichi had found, signaled the impending climax of their prolonged battle. Their paths were about to converge once more in a showdown that could cost them everything. The following morning, in a quiet corner of a busy Tokyo park, Shinichi and AI found themselves face to face. They both understood the gravity of the meeting. AI, her hand trembling slightly, handed over the secure case to Shinichi. His small fingers wrapped around it tightly, his heart pounding against his chest. Inside was the antidote, the key to his transformation back into his true self. Shinichi looked at AI, his gaze filled with gratitude and determination. With a solemn nod, he swallowed the antidote, bracing himself for the transformation. The world around him spun into a dizzying blur. His body convulsed as the antidote took effect, pain and disorientation setting in. But he held on, biting down a scream, his fingers digging into the ground. After what felt like an eternity, the pain began to subside, the world around him slowly coming back into focus. When he finally opened his eyes, he found himself looking at the world from a familiar perspective. He was no longer the pint-sized Conan, but the teenage detective, Shinichi Kudo. He was back. He looked at his hands, then at his reflection in a nearby pool of water. The sight of his familiar face staring back at him brought a rush of emotions. He then reached into his bag, pulling out his old clothes that had felt foreign for so long. As he dressed, he felt a sense of normalcy return. But it was also a call to arms. Now in his true form, it was time for Shinichi to face his destiny. The final confrontation with the Black Organization awaited him. Shinichi, now back in his true form, headed to the agency office of Private Detective Kagoro Mori. There, a team of trusted allies had gathered: Jody Starling, an astute FBI agent, Hattori Heiji, the renowned high school detective from Osaka, and others whose lives were also twisted by the Black Organization's actions. In the dimly lit room, Shinichi unveiled the information he had discovered: the identity of the boss of the Black Organization. His revelation met with an eerie silence, followed by a flurry of questions, concerns, and ideas. The magnitude of the situation wasn't lost on them, but they were all united in their determination to bring the organization down. Together, they began to devise an intricate plan. Every detail was meticulously discussed, every potential danger accounted for. It felt like a game of high-stakes chess, and Shinichi was leading his team to checkmate the king. As the hours ticked by, the initial tension was replaced with a sense of camaraderie. Despite their different backgrounds, they were united by a shared mission. There were jokes, laughter, and shared stories among the serious discussions, serving as a stark reminder of what they were fighting for: not just for justice, but for the chance to live a life free from fear and deception. Finally, as dawn began to break, they had a solid plan. Shinichi looked around at his friends and allies, a renewed sense of hope blooming within him. The boss of the Black Organization may be formidable, but they were a force to be reckoned with too. And they were ready for the showdown. The day of reckoning arrived quicker than they had anticipated. Their plan, complex and ambitious, was set into motion. Shinichi, Hattori, Jody, and their team stealthily infiltrated the Black Organization's stronghold, each of them playing their part to perfection. The stronghold was an intimidating structure, an edifice that bore witness to countless crimes and secrets. It hummed with an undercurrent of danger that set their nerves on edge. But they were ready, fueled by a resolve stronger than any fear. They navigated through the labyrinth of corridors, evading traps and guards, their actions synchronized through whispered codes and predetermined signals. As they delved deeper into the fortress, they grew closer to their objective: the ominous figure who had cast a long shadow over their lives, the boss. The confrontation, when it happened, was a tumultuous clash of wills. The boss and his henchmen put up a fierce fight, a whirlwind of chaos and danger that threatened to tear them apart. But Shinichi and his allies met them blow for blow, their determination unwavering. As the battle reached its climax, Shinichi deduced a critical clue that turned the tables in their favor. The boss of the Black Organization, the man who had seemed invincible, was finally apprehended. They had won. The organization that had plagued them for so long was finally crumbling. The feeling of victory, however, was bittersweet. Shinichi collapsed from exhaustion and injuries sustained during the confrontation, the world fading around him as he fell into unconsciousness. When Shinichi finally came to, he found himself in a stark, sterile hospital room. The battle against the Black Organization seemed like a distant nightmare. But the steady beeping of the heart monitor beside him and the dull ache in his body served as a grim reminder of the ordeal he had been through. Beside him, Ran Mori sat, her eyes filled with worry and relief. For so long, she had been in the dark, worrying about Shinichi's prolonged absence, unknowing of the double life he led as Conan. It was time she knew the truth. With a deep breath, Shinichi took her hand in his. Her gaze met his, her eyes wide and questioning. He began to speak, his voice hoarse but steady. He revealed his secret, that he was Conan Edogawa, that he had been forced to live a double life to protect those he cared for. Ran was silent as she took in the revelation, her mind struggling to wrap around the truth. Then, a wave of emotions broke over her. There was shock, anger, relief, and finally, understanding. She had countless questions, but they could wait. For now, she held Shinichi's hand tighter, a silent promise passing between them. No more secrets. They would face their future together. The days that followed the fall of the Black Organization were a whirlwind of activity. Law enforcement agencies were working tirelessly, arresting its members and dismantling the organization from its roots, using the intelligence provided by Shinichi and his allies. Shinichi, now permanently in his original form, spent those days recovering from his injuries and reconnecting with the life he once knew. His friends and family struggled to wrap their heads around the truth, but their surprise gradually turned into understanding and relief. Most notably, his relationship with Ran underwent a profound change. Their bond, once strained by secrets and lies, now deepened by the truth. They stood by each other, facing the flurry of emotions and challenges together, their relationship stronger than ever before. As the dust finally began to settle, Shinichi stood with Ran under the vast, blue sky. The city, once a backdrop for their dangerous adventures, now promised peace. They looked at each other, their smiles reflecting hope, determination, and the promise of a new chapter in their lives. Shinichi Kudo, once trapped as Conan Edogawa, was finally free to be himself again. The days of hiding and fighting were behind him. And while he knew there would still be mysteries to solve and crimes to prevent, he was ready to face them, not as the pint-sized detective, but as himself, with his friends and Ran by his side.